Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler, author of A Saga on Home Video, 2nd edition, which can be found now in 3 volumes. This happens to be volume 1 over on Amazon in Kindle, hardback, and paperback formats. About 1,000 pages, give or take, on Star Wars Home Video stuff, primarily focused on the US, though a bit from abroad as well. You find out more about that in other videos on the channel, or feel free to ask a question in the comments here. I'll answer ones about the book, I suppose. But the reason I mentioned the I suppose part is because this is one of our Q&A videos. This is Q&A video number 3, this time taking questions from the comments from video number 2. We're going to take a look at those, hopefully fairly quickly, as I do have limited time here, but I felt like, you know what, since I have the time, let's get another Q&A video taken care of here. So, I am going to look at questions, though, only. So if somebody made a comment like, thanks for answering this, or something like that, I am going to skip those because those are not questions. So Peanut Butter Jeff asks, so, not sure if this deserves a spot in an upcoming Q&A since it's a short question, but is there a physical difference that can be spotted without testing the tape between 1987 and 1988 tapes with the trailers either at the beginning or end? So again, this is a little bit broader than just 87, 88. Initially, you have A New Hope in 84. Again, talking about just the slim case ones, not the drawer case ones before that. But slim case ones, 84, easy to tell because of the whole digitally mastered thing not being on there. 85, no new VHS release, but then 86, another reissue. That one says digitally mastered. And that one, I'm trying to recall, let's see. So that one has the trailer, I believe, on the end of it. Yeah. And then you got the ones with the trailer at the beginning in 87. 88 then continues with the trailer at the beginning. But there is a way physically to spot it. And I should note here that in 84, you do have an Empire trailer, or a trailer on Empire, which was a trailer for A New Hope at the end. But yes, there is a difference between specifically 87 to 88. 88 being the first year in which you could buy a trilogy set, albeit with a paper band around it instead of it being in a box. So the difference in 88, right, compared to those previous ones, is that on each of them, there is a holographic dot on the back. So this reissue in 88, by the time they then put it into these packages, has the holographic dot at the top. Otherwise, the package is essentially identical, going backwards all the way with A New Hope to 86, with Jedi to 86, with Empire pretty much to 84, packaging-wise. But that holographic dot does let you know it was essentially the last of these prior to the retooling of the packaging design for 1990. Father Matthew Hardesty asks a very quick question. Congratulations on 6,000 subscribers, or he writes it as 6K, which is cooler. That happened pretty recently, right? Yes, I don't know exactly when, but yes, we did recently hit the 6,000 subscriber mark on the channel, which I believe I mentioned in the previous project update, but he was mentioning this, I believe, prior to that, because I'm pretty sure the Q&A came out before the update and everything. But yeah, finally hit 6,000, which for me is huge for, YouTube, but this is also coming from a guy who thinks back in the day still of the context of Chrono Radio, right? With Chrono Radio, if you had like 200 listeners, you were hitting the big time back then. Not so much with the way podcasts and YouTube channels work today. So 6,000 is pretty small. Big from my perspective, especially not really promoting it very much. Then Eva H. asks, so with the Skywalker Saga individual trilogy box sets getting released, at least in the UK, on May 2nd, what are your hopes and dreams for home video releases for this year and going forward? As a collector, do you feel that everything is dwindling due to Disney wanting to promote Disney+? I only ask the above question because I feel that things are dying down personally. Again, due to Disney+. I guess until we have another round of feature films. So what she mentions there, by the way, is something that I've just pre-ordered. We are going to see on the channel. Basically, in Europe, we're seeing trilogy box sets being released in April and May of 2022. France was the first place to announce them, and then you've got Germany that also has them, and then the UK has some of them. In France, there's a DVD box set, I believe, a Blu-ray box set, I believe, and then there's a 4K/Blu-ray version. I have pre-ordered the latter of all 3 trilogies. The reason I only pre-ordered those is because the Blu-ray only version and the DVD only version of each are being released in the UK. But the UK isn't getting a 4K version of it for some reason. So I've ordered now, thanks to extra student pay coming in from all the extra students I taught this semester, and now that we have paid off our taxes and everything, I've pre-ordered the DVD trilogy sets, all three of them, and the Blu-ray trilogy sets, all three of them from the UK, the 4K/Blu-ray sets from France. So we will be looking at those on the channel once they arrive. This was actually the first time for me using Amazon France, so hopefully that goes well. I've used Amazon UK and Amazon Japan plenty of times at this point. Not Australia, because usually with Australia I go through JB Hi-Fi, I think is the name of it. But to get to the questions here, what are my hopes for releases, my hopes and dreams for releases? I would love to see more releases in general. Home video releases of the stuff from Disney Plus, like a season of The Mandalorian, then subsequent seasons of The Mandalorian, and so on. I would love to see, the trilogy sets get released stateside in the US, but that doesn't seem to be happening. Disney has said they have no plans to do that. So for me, my hopes would be really for almost anything at this point. Give me a Blu-ray set or even a DVD set of Resistance Season 2 so that's not an incomplete series, but I don't see it happening. I think hopes and dreams are wide open. Give me more stuff. I think my pragmatism goes to her second question. Do you feel like everything's dwindling due to Disney wanting to promote Disney Plus? Yes. Absolutely yes. And I don't know how much of that is Disney Plus per se. I think Disney Plus certainly accelerates that. But we are getting to the point where kind of across the board, you're seeing less home video releases in general, in different formats and so forth, depending on the film, depending on how wide the distribution is going to be. For example, Sony, one of the first early promoters of 3D home media, Sony's given up on 3D, it seems, so we are not getting 3D releases apparently anywhere in the world from what we can see right now of Spider-Man No Way Home, which sucks. But then, you look at the market from these streaming services, and many of them don't release their stuff at all if it's exclusive. We've seen the approach taken by Disney and Netflix back when the Netflix shows were still on Netflix for the MCU. A lot of them didn't get season releases. So yeah, it's definitely dwindling. I think the dwindling was already happening before the advent of Disney Plus, but Disney Plus is now accelerating that or exacerbating it, because before Disney Plus, it was just, why don't you put out Resistance Season 2? Come on, man. That's just a symptom of the dwindling of home media. Except now with Disney Plus having all this exclusive content, now it's, here's this exclusive content that's not getting releases. It's not just stuff that aired on regular television, so there's a bigger library of new stuff not getting releases than what we had seen prior to the advent of Disney Plus. Probably would have been a pattern we'd see continuing anyway. But I definitely feel like Disney Plus is sort of where they're trying to steer everyone at this point. I mean, the fact that you haven't even seen digital season pass releases of, say, The Mandalorian to get through something like iTunes says a lot. Because it means it's not just the physical overhead that is causing them not to release the physical releases, the physical like box sets of season sets or anything like that and stick with Disney Plus. They won't even release them for purchase digitally, where there is no physical overhead for the production process. So, yeah. I would imagine that if Disney had their druthers, I never use that phrase, but okay. But if Disney had their druthers, they probably wouldn't even want to have any of their stuff that's already out there available on purchasable platforms anymore. But they know that there'd be a huge backlash if they said, no, this movie that you bought you can't have anymore. And at least for the time being, they're still providing digital copies with physical copies, so there needs to be something existing there, right? But that, of course, ties into Movies Anywhere, trying to get people to use that platform, buy stuff digitally to transfer into that platform, and of course that ties into Disney Movie Insiders. So it doesn't seem like they're ready to completely abandon physical yet, but they certainly are much closer to it. But it almost feels like there's a slippery slope where they may even be willing to pull back on or have been pulling back on the idea of even digital releases for some of their stuff as long as it was, released online. Like I'm waiting for a 4K purchasable disc-based release of Hamilton, which of course was a Disney Plus release for the official one if you're not watching people who like took a camcorder in or whatever or a phone in or whatever, camcorder. Took a phone in and recorded it and put it on YouTube kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely dwindling at this point. We don't see theatrical stuff coming out though for Star Wars right now, so it may kick up again when more films are released. May. Hopefully will. But the Disney Plus stuff is in kind of a world of its own at this point and just exacerbates an already existing issue. And then what I believe is the last question here, we're making this a fairly quick one. Again, I said I'm pressed for time, and it turns out there's just enough questions to really kind of fit in the time that I have here. We have a question here from Vintage VHS Treasures, who asks, why do you think the Complete Saga Blu-ray from 2011/2015, don't forget 2017, and the recent Skywalker Saga 4K set from 2020, don't forget the individual releases along with it, doesn't port over every extra from previous VHS/DVD/Laserdisc releases? I would argue it's probably still because of space concerns. Not space, but like physical space. Like me running out of space for this stuff. Like capacity issues. There's a lot of stuff you can cram onto a Blu-ray, but if you want it to be of good visual quality, the file sizes are bigger. And you haven't really seen that with Star Wars very often. It was a big freaking deal when the 3D Collector's Edition of The Force Awakens came out and actually carried over every single bonus feature from the regular release several months earlier and added a few more, primarily stuff that was a digital-only exclusive type stuff at the time, and added it in there. The fact that we got a release that made the previous release redundant by including everything was kind of a big deal because it wasn't something that typically happens. You don't typically see Star Wars releases carry over bonus features from previous stuff. It's weird when a new release carries over bonus features from previous stuff. So I actually find it kind of surprising when we actually see that sort of thing happen, unless you're in an era in which it feels like their goal is to recycle and not create new bonus features, which is kind of what we saw with the Skywalker Saga box set. It was previous stuff from places like the Complete Saga or some of those digital releases like Conversations from the digital release in 2015, that kind of stuff. But I do think that some of it, at least still for physical media, it comes down to physical space, right? They included a lot of stuff on those bonus discs. And if they're not going to include more bonus features with the film on the film disc, for the Blu-ray at least, 4K discs typically don't have a lot of bonus features on the 4K disc itself. But if they're only going to give one Blu-ray disc per film, then they're going to need to have enough content to fill it pretty much, but you don't want to necessarily try to include everything because A, it wouldn't be of a high enough quality, and B, it may not all fit, necessitating another bonus disc, which raises production costs and the number of discs in the set, and so on and so on and so on. And you would maybe have not been able to have the same bonus discs in the big box set as in the individual releases, which then sort of makes the Best Buy one more exclusive, etc., etc. I think there were a lot of production and physical space capacity considerations when it comes to that. I would love to see such a thing. But those who talk about the idea of we need a big Star Wars box set that includes all the bonus features ever released, even going back to some of the super early stuff like, stuff on the, not counting trailers, stuff on, like the VHS release of Phantom Menace, or stuff like on the Laserdisc set from '93, the Definitive Collection, and so on, or some of those Leonard Maltin interviews. I think they're sort of wishing for something that we will never see happen. Part of me wonders if there are any distribution rights issues with any of that stuff. There might be, but I doubt it, given who owns what now. But just from a space consideration and a mixture of SD and HD and 4K quality stuff and so on, I don't see it happening. And I feel like, this is just my opinion, there is definitely a laziness to a lot of reissued films, right? If you have a new film getting released, like there's a lot of cool bonus features on Spider-Man No Way Home, which of course was through Sony being released. A lot of cool bonus features there, and there's frequently some pretty cool bonus features, though not a ton, but some pretty decent bonus features on other MCU releases that do come from Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment. But reissues of films like the Star Wars films that have been on home video, in the case of A New Hope, since '82, and have been on Blu-ray since, in the case again of A New Hope, since 2011, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, let's just give them the stuff that's here. The only people who are going to buy these are people who are buying them because they never had them before, so these are all new bonus features to them, or people who are always going to buy every new release and are kind of used to the idea that there's going to be stuff they already own on it, but that's not why they're buying it anyway, right? There's not a lot of a need to do something like they did, say, with the Complete Saga and be like, here's a new set with a ton of new bonus features you've never seen before. That's just not really a thing as much anymore. I think from a a production standpoint, from a capacity standpoint, from a cost standpoint of putting content together, for a company that's already seeming to want to lean more towards digital or streaming, I think the fact that we got bonus discs at all in 2020 is actually kind of cool and kind of surprising and kind of cool. Because remember when they did the Skywalker Saga and other reissues, the first Black Border releases in 2019, those were film disc only, no bonus features disc at all. And that was even for the Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment stuff that had their own bonus discs from Force Awakens onward that didn't get them in that. You had to wait for the 4K set later to eventually get it with the bonus disc, or buy it from another region where they did the Black Border Blu-ray release with the disc and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I feel like it's not the norm, so it should not be the expectation, even if it's what we would love to see. And I'm not sure that it makes sense from a production and cost standpoint for a company, particularly if they're already trying to shy away from physical media. They want to be able to get these things out, it seems, for as low a cost as possible, especially on reissues, because the market will theoretically be smaller than when they're first released on a format. If we were going to see new bonus features with any of these films, I think Skywalker Saga box set, that was where we were going to see them. Because that was a big deal with it being, and the individual releases, the first time we saw 4K releases of, 7 of those films, plus then eventually Rogue One as well. But it didn't happen. So unless we have something big for like the 50th anniversary here in about 5 years, I don't see it happening. And I would note here that here we are at the 45th anniversary, and we haven't heard a damn thing, except for those showing up on websites without really much fanfare trilogy sets that aren't even being released in the United States. I think the days of being able to even expect something major home video-wise for Star Wars for a major anniversary, even the 50th, is probably asking too much. They'll probably celebrate the hell out of the 50th anniversary on Disney+. But will they on physical media? Who even knows what the physical media market is going to look like in 5 years, in 2027, when we hit the 50th anniversary? I don't hold out a lot of hope, though if they're going to do something big, that'd be the time to do it. But do they have the will? I doubt it, unfortunately. All right, with that, we'll wrap up this Q&A. Again, if you want questions answered in the next of the Q&A videos for this series, put them in the comments to this video. I will not answer them until the next Q&A video. I won't answer them in the comments themselves, unless you happen to have a specific question relating to the book and you note, please answer here, as opposed to answering in the next video, then I'll answer them there. But if you don't say something like, please answer in the comments, I will hold the questions, whatever they are, for the next of these videos, and maybe use them all depending on the amount of time I have. But thank you to those who asked questions. Again, Father Matthew Hardesty, Peanut Butter Jeff, Eva H, and Vintage VHS Treasures here. And thanks for those who also made other comments that just were not questions here. I appreciate that, and I will catch you on the next of the Q&A videos. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers and those who have questions about Star Wars home video.